Kristina Olney is Director of Government Relations for In Defense of Christians. What is your take on the UN's approach to the plight of Christians in the Middle East?
Thank you for having me on the show, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. The United Nations and the international community should be commended for assisting the over 65 million refugees who are fleeing the maelstrom of violence and bloodshed that continues in Syria today, tragically. Countries like Jordan and Lebanon are hosting millions of these refugees. Lebanon alone now has 25% of its population that are refugees. These are staggering numbers. At the same time, the international community needs to do more to recognize the specific needs of the victims of genocide in Iraq and Syria, who too often are falling through the cracks of the international refugee system and of political negotiations about the future of these countries.
Has anything changed since your organization presented its petition to the UN?
Earlier this year, IDC launched the most comprehensive report detailing the crimes that ISIS has committed against Christians in Iraq. And a week after that report, the United States government made a statement recognizing the genocide that is taking place against these communities. So that silence has finally been broken, and we have also been successful in working with the US Congress on important initiatives for the protection and preservation of Christianity in the Middle East. 4 resolutions were introduced at our National Advocacy Convention just this month on those issues.
Tell us why this impending Mosul operation in Iraq is so important.
The impending operation to liberate Mosul from ISIS is important because for the first time, Christians have hope that they'll be able to return home. There are only 200,000 Christians remaining in Iraq, a country that has more biblical history than almost any nation in the world. And many of these communities, the majority of them who I was visiting with earlier this year, want to return home. The Iraqi government has called for a province for these communities, and it is something that the US government and the international community should support.
The Nineveh Plain province. So this is crucial to the resettlement of these Christians and other minorities.
We see it as the only viable solution for Christians to remain in Iraq. Christians are currently living in dire conditions in refugee camps, where they are living in caravans and with sub-minimal medical conditions and supplies. So if Christians are going to remain, they need security and stability, and they have the right to return to their homeland.
Kristina Olney with In Defense of Christians, thank you.
Thank you for having me.